Today we'll be unpacking the topic of what is the next chapter, especially for the matriculants that have just received their results. So we are unpacking, the transition of results to reality. What does it mean now that you've received your results? What is the next step? And we do understand that this is a very stressful time for all the matriculants out there. So, and I really hope that this session will be very informative for all of you guys. So just to give you guys a brief introduction of our organization. So the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, in short SADAG, is a mental health support organization. We also provide advocacy. We offer a wide range of services for individuals across South Africa. What these services include is lay counseling services. So individuals can make use of the toll-free telephonic counseling helplines, whereby you can speak to a counselor at any time of the day with whatever challenge you are struggling with and you feel like you need that assistance and you need that support navigating. So SADAG is the only suicide crisis helpline in the nation. Then in addition to that as well, we also have the WhatsApp chat line, whereby you can speak to a counselor on WhatsApp. And I know that especially for young people, they prefer to make use of WhatsApp as opposed to, speaking to someone telephonically. And I think that the WhatsApp chat line is such a good resource available for, young individuals. And I can assure you that the WhatsApp chat line is not a robot. It's not AI. It's actual human counselors sitting behind a desktop speaking to individuals and providing those counseling services. Then we also have the School Outreach Initiative, which is basically a team of counselors that go to different schools, educating the learners and the teachers about mental health and support services available. Then a very, very big one is the support groups. So SADAG offers over 200 support groups in the nation. And I think this is very big. It really is a big number. And these support groups are just a platform for individuals to share their experiences and just to receive support as well for other like-minded individuals. Then we also provide advocacy and awareness campaigns through social media, for example, Instagram lives that we do, and sometimes through public talks and other collaborations. I just want us to unpack a little bit about support groups and the power of support groups. So I just wanted to note that support groups are a powerful tool for fostering that healing, that connection, and that growth, to have a space whereby you can speak with like-minded individuals about a challenge that you're experiencing and knowing very well that that individual has either went through the same situation or a similar situation. And that way it builds connection, it builds that sense of community and that sense of commonality. And with that being said, I want us to also, look at what does a support group help us with. If an individual is, interested in joining one or starting one rather, what are the benefits of this? So firstly, we get that connection and that sense of belonging. Being able to be in a group with individuals that have shared experiences, members that can offer similar challenges, that, fosters a sense of understanding and validation, because whatever it is that you are speaking about in that group, you know very well that the other members have been through a similar situation. Then it also helps to foster that community as well. And I think that, it's so hard to find that sense of community, that sense of commonality with individuals. And with support groups, it just creates that sense of belonging, which everyone needs and everyone wants, reducing that sense of isolation and loneliness. Because, imagine speaking to an individual that does not know what you've been through, and you can't connect with them, and therefore, increasing that sense of loneliness as well. Then we also get emotional support, whereby it provides a safe space, whereby you can speak about your challenges, you can express yourself with without any judgment, without feeling misunderstood. Because I think that's also another reason why individuals tend to shy away from expressing themselves, is because you don't know how it will land to the next person, and you question if they will understand, you question if they will judge you or if they won't judge you. So being in a space whereby you know that you will not be judged, you know that you will be understood, it really does help improve one's mental health and their well-being. Then one can also get practical advice, shared wisdom from individuals. Members can share strategies, resources, and coping mechanisms that have worked for them. And it also helps problem solving as well. So that is also another benefit, or a power of support groups. Groups often, brainstorm different solutions and different challenges, and even though it's not necessarily brainstorming, but if I'm sharing what worked for me, the next person can be like, oh, okay, if this worked for Gugu, maybe it can work for me too, and I can implement it. And I think another big powerful tool that a support group provides is that reduced stigmatization. So it normalizes speaking about our challenges and speaking about whatever it is that is affecting us in that moment. Hearing others openly express themselves and talk about their challenges, it helps members feel less lonely or different. And I think with that being said, this is such a good opportunity to also unpack the Matric support group. So SADAG has been hosting support group meetings specifically for matriculants, and I think this is so relevant now more than ever, considering that results recently came out. A lot of matriculants are happy, and in the same breath, a lot of matriculants aren't happy. Maybe you're not happy with the results that you received. You hoped to get 4 distinctions, but you only got 1. You hoped, to maybe get a bachelor's pass, but you only got, a diploma pass. So all of that can definitely affect one's well-being and affect their mental health. And this is where the SADAG Matric support group comes in, a space whereby matriculant learners can come together, express their emotions, express their stresses and their frustrations, have that sense of community, have that sense of commonality, while also navigating the next step. And this is so powerful because you are not in a group with people who are in varsity or adults or teachers. It's just strictly for matriculant learners, which also does foster that community as well, and that understanding and that empathy that one would not get if they were in a group with other individuals. So with the Matric support group, it's such an amazing tool, and it's such an amazing space, because we do see that individuals, they develop that connection with each other, whereby they understand the stresses. Because even though I was in Matric years ago, the stresses that I had those years back may not necessarily be the same as the stresses that the matriculants are experiencing now. So the best person to offer that space of community and commonality is another matriculant learner. So with the SADAG Matric support group, it runs on Wednesday. So this Wednesday, actually, we do have a meeting on Zoom at 6 p.m. I will share the details at a later stage as we continue with the live. But I really do implore all the matriculant learners that are listening, or anyone rather that knows a matriculant, whether it's your cousin, your sister, your brother, who just received their results and they're not necessarily feeling good. Tell them about this resource. Tell them to join in so that they can get that support, because it is needed. It is necessary. And I think with that being said, I think this is such a great time now to unpack the questions that we received now that you guys have a little bit of background information about SADAG. So let's look at the first question, right? How can friends, families, and teachers support matrics who have not received good results? And this is such a good question because matric learners, they are not in isolation, right? They have friends, they have families, they have teachers, they have, cousins or whatever. And how do they provide that support for the matric learners, right? And the first way this can happen is by offering emotional support, providing reassurance to the learners and listening, without any judgment. And I think that, maybe as a parent, it's very easy to maybe dismiss how your child is feeling, especially if they did not get the results that they had hoped for. It's normal as a parent to want the best for your child. And sometimes, we don't necessarily listen and provide that emotional support in a way that they want us to, especially during these difficult times. And, providing that reassurance and listening without judgment will just help decrease their distress, especially during this time. Encouraging open dialogue. And, this is such a great way for parents to help foster that connection with their children, allow them to express their feelings, allow them to say how they're feeling, and avoid dismissing their emotions, because whatever it is that they are feeling is valid to you. Maybe as a parent who, matriculated years ago, whatever they're feeling may not necessarily be valid for you. However, for them, it is valid and it does matter. So it is important for the teachers, for the families, and the community at large, to give that space. Have open dialogues. Ask them, how are you feeling? I know that maybe you did not get those 5 distinctions that you hoped for, but how are you feeling? How is this affecting you? It helps them understand that not only are their emotions valid, but you are there to provide support for them, irregardless of the situation and irregardless of the outcome. Another way that families, teachers, and parents can provide support is focusing on solutions, right? And it's so important because we've received the results now. It's not going to change. What we have right now is what we have, and focusing on solutions can be so much helpful, not just only to uplift them, but to also reinforce that this is not the end of the road. There's so much more out there as well that they can achieve and the different options that they have, right? So help them explore the different options that they have, whether this is rewriting, whether this is, getting an internship, whatever that option may look like. Guide them through it and help them explore those different options. And I think this is also such a good opportunity to mention that the Department of Education does have a program. It's called the Second Chance Program. So this is for matriculants who feel like they did not do well and would like a second chance to do better. And I really think that this is such an amazing resource that is available that one can explore, right? Another way that support can be provided is to celebrate the efforts. Matric is not easy. I remember when I was in Matric, it really was not easy. There's a lot of pressure, not just from yourself, but from family and everyone else, right? So celebrating those little efforts, emphasize on their hard work and their resilience, because it's not easy to get to, grade 12. And for the fact that they got there and they made it, irregardless of how they made it, it really is important. It's something to celebrate and to acknowledge. Then, another question that we have is, What is the importance of showing your emotions and feelings? And, this is also another great question, because we're human, right? And as per being a human being, there's emotions, that come along with that. Good emotions, bad emotions, high and low. So it's very important to, show those emotions. And, firstly, it helps for that emotional release, prevents bottling up your emotions and suppressing them. The more we bottle up, the more we suppress. That intensifies one's stress and anxiety. And I'm pretty sure as a matriculant, the last thing that you need is added stress and added pressure. So it will help with that emotional release, speaking about what you're feeling, right? And think about it in this way. When you're carrying all these negative thoughts and all these negative emotions, because it's negative, it weighs very heavily on you, right? And let's think about it like it's like carrying bricks. And the more you offload brick by brick by brick, you feel lighter, right? And it's exactly the same way. Those negative emotions and those negative thoughts are the bricks that weigh very heavily on you. And having that emotional release helps you with that weight, right? And it helps you to better cope and to better manage. Secondly, it encourages connection. Sharing feelings, it fosters that support, right? It fosters that understanding amongst individuals, which is very important, and it also provides healing. Acknowledging your emotions, it helps in processing moving forward. And, as cliche as it may sound, it is the first step, before we can get to finding a solution. We need to acknowledge that this is how I'm feeling, and it is okay for me to feel the way that I'm feeling, because it's a package deal. Being a matriculant learner comes with stress and comes with so many different emotions. Receiving your results comes with stress and so many different emotions. But that does not mean that we need to suppress them. It does not mean that we have to bottle them. All right, let's look at another question. Let's see. Practical tips to staying positive after receiving results. So what are these practical tips, right? What do they look like? And I think the first one is to reflect on efforts, right? Focus on what you've learned. Focus on what you've achieved, irregardless of the outcome. And I think this has a lot to do with, showing oneself compassion and that kindness. And, I think with matriculants, with individuals just in general, it's so much easier to, provide compassion and understanding to our friends, to our peers, when they're going through a tough situation. However, we do not give ourselves the same grace when we are the ones that are going through a tough situation, and just acknowledging, what you have achieved and saying, listen, this was hard, but I did it, and for the fact that I was able to do it, that on its own is an indication that I am capable, what have I learned from this, to say, okay, for example, you did not get 5 distinctions, you got 2 distinctions. What have you learned from that situation? What have you learned from that negative outcome that you did not necessarily want, or that you did not hope for? You must remember that no matter how tough a situation may be, there's always an opportunity to learn from it, and there's always an opportunity to grow, from that situation. And that's how we self-actualize, right? Another practical tip is seeking for support. Talk to a trusted friend, talk to family, call SADAG. We are here, the resources are available. SADAG is a 24-hour helpline, so at any time of day you can give us a call, speak to a counselor, and seek for that support, right? The help is available, the help is there. You just need to reach out for it, okay? Because you're not alone at all. Another practical tip is explore options. So do your research, on different alternative paths to help you reach your goal. That is so important because, at the end of the tunnel, there's so many different routes that one can take in order to get to their final destination. And just doing your research just can help alleviate that distress. And sometimes you might just find out that maybe I don't want to do medicine, and in that moment, maybe you did not realize that medicine was not the route for you, and it just took you not getting the results that you wanted for you to realize that and actually be derooted into a completely different, career path that you are passionate about and that you enjoy and that you thrive in. Okay. Another practical tip is set new goals. Okay. Use your experience to set realistic, achievable, and motivating new goals for yourself, right? So what does this mean? This means, using your experience to explore other different alternatives. What is your next step? Is your next step applying for an internship? Is your next step, rewriting? Is your next step, maybe you're going to do a bridging course? What does that look like? And focusing on that. Not only does it help to, not only does it help with the momentum, but it also helps to reduce that stress and that anxiety, because now you have a little bit of sense of control by doing that. Another tip is practicing gratitude. Focus on positive aspects of your life and future opportunities. And I think this is so important, to do this and not necessarily be fixated on, that challenge. And I know that it's better said than done. However, trying these different, tips each day can be very helpful, and it just helps us get to, it helps us take that one step to get to the end goal of it all. Then another question that we have is, why is the Matric support group important? I particularly love this question because I see the power of Matric support groups. I see how helpful it has been to so many matriculants, and I understand the need for it. And why is it important? Emotional support, firstly. It offers a space for matriculant learners to share their feelings, to share their emotions with peers who understand what it is that you are going through. Secondly, practical guidance, right? So with like-minded peers, you guys can discuss and talk about the different resources available. You guys can provide each other advice and provide each other with different alternative pathways. Then we also have that sense of community that it provides, right? Reduces those feelings of isolation, and it also builds resilience. And lastly, it also helps with motivation. Hearing success stories from others, it inspires hope and determination. And I think it's so important to be part of such a group whereby you can hear other people's stories. You can hear other people's, challenges, what they went through. What were, those matriculants' challenges? What did they struggle with? And what is their plan? And there's so much to take from that. And there's so much to not only just take it, but to build from it, to find your path. And it's very important to know and to understand that you are not alone. The support is there, and you just need to reach out for that support. And I completely understand that it is a very stressful time whereby, you're now thinking of what is the next plan? What do I do from now on? I didn't get the results that I would have hoped to get. However, where do I go now? And who do I turn to? Where do I even begin to, get to that next step? And I just want to, encourage, the matriculants and tell them that it's okay. It really is okay these results do not define you, nor do they determine your ability to succeed or your ability to thrive in life. They don't determine where you end up. Only you can do that. And the moment you understand that it's not a determining factor, I think that's where you begin to acknowledge the situation and to find a solution for it, so that you can better yourself and, better your well-being and your mental health. So that's it from me. I can take questions. I'm not sure if there are any questions, but if there are questions, you're more than welcome to ask, and we'll just unpack them. Alternatively, please do know that we are available to help you. And I will emphasize again, today is a Wednesday. We have a Matric support group meeting running at 6 p.m. via Zoom. So if anyone is interested in joining that support group, they are more than welcome to reach out. They are more than welcome to join the meeting, right? And that's why we are here. That's why we are providing that alternative for the matriculant learners, so that you guys know that help is here and the support is here. Okay, I just want to provide you as well with the details rather that you can contact if you are interested in joining the Matric support group, or if you are joining, you have a family member, a friend that you feel like would benefit from joining the support group. They are more than welcome to contact the following WhatsApp number. So 076 88 22 775. So the WhatsApp number they can reach out to is 076 88 22 775. Alternatively, they can contact our helpline, which is 0800 567 567. 0800 567 567. But overall, I really do hope that this live was very informative, and everyone that joined gained a lot of insight and a lot of information. And even though you did join, but you're not a matriculant learner, now you know how to support your child, your friend, your cousin who received their matric results. Thank you so much for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day.